So, what actually happened at the London Marathon?
I do it for real, there's no reason to pretend. If I do it once, I do it again. Add it up, bankroll, euro, peso.
So as you'll know, Sunday was the London Marathon. It's been 5 days since. It was actually my 11th London Marathon, which I think sounds pretty crazy in itself. I put a reel up on Instagram a couple of weeks ago, which I think for me doesn't actually seem real, that it was actually me who ran from 4 hours 42 up to my current PB from last year, which is 2:51. In this video, I'm going to talk to you what actually happened during the race, how I sort of felt. It's a bit more detailed, a little bit more sort of stats. So if you're interested in the stats side of things, definitely continue to watch. How I dealt with sort of my mentality, reflecting on the race, and potentially what I kind of need to do going forward, or what was actually missing in this particular training block. So the race itself, obviously I ran 2:56.28. Going into the race, my training had been pretty well. I think I trained fairly well. I did have a block of around 9 weeks or so from my Strava training log, where it was a bit broken up because of COVID, and also just a return from a slight injury which I had at the end of my sort of build up in the summer from when I missed Boston. But either way, I felt pretty good throughout my training block. I felt as if I nailed a pretty much good set amount of sessions to put myself in contention to run a good time. I tried to go out for my A goal, but in the end I failed at that attempt. But I wouldn't say it's a failure. It's just a case I wasn't quite ready for that attempt at the present moment. Obviously 2:56.28 is a good time in itself, and it's also another sub 3. Like I said, you can never get bored of running sub 3. It's just one of them where I was actually calculating for, when I got to 2 hours in the race, what I needed to get myself to the end and what I had to run to try and get myself over the finish line. You do become pretty good at maths when you are running to a specific target time or a pace, and you don't end up working out backwards whether it's miles or kilometers, what you actually need to get there, and it's just a case of trying to hang on. The splits on the day, my aim was to run about 20:06 for each and every 5k, so that's 8 5ks in the race. That would have delivered my time. But first 5k I went off, you'll see on the screen, it was bang on 20 minutes. I had to actually slow myself down because I went off a little bit too quick at the start. I just went with the flow of people. I felt okay. I was just trying to make sure my watch was syncing up with the actual GPS on the course in terms of going past the mile 1 marker, the mile 2 and mile 3, just making sure that I had a good bearing of where I was. And I felt okay, I felt fine. And then I naturally just took a little bit off for the 10k mark. So when I went through 10k, it was at 40:22. I was slightly under my target time or what I needed to, but that was okay because I needed to just take a little bit off because I'd gone off a little bit too fast at the start. In terms of how I felt at the time, 15 to 20k came and I felt relatively okay. I think around the 20k marker, I realized, oh, I just don't have it. I just really didn't have it in the tank today to maintain what it was that I wanted to do. Those 401s per kilometers, which is 628 or so per mile. I just couldn't. The watch was slipping. I started running around 6:35s and I was just like, okay, I'm fine with this at the moment. I'm just going to continue to halfway up until about 25k at this sort of pace and just see how comfortable it actually feels. I then actually got to halfway and picked up this pace. As you'll see, I kind of picked up to 3:49 minutes per kilometer from the 20k to the halfway marker. I think that's just because of the excitement of the race, if I'm totally honest. Like, I was so pumped up going along Tower Bridge. It was just such a euphoric moment. Every time I've done Tower Bridge, every single London Marathon from way back in 2008 up until where we are now, it is the most iconic moment on the course. If you haven't had a chance to run the London Marathon, please do so. Please do what you can to try and get into the race. I raised money for charity 5 times just because I felt like I needed to be a part of this race. It was something missing. As a Londoner, I felt like something was missing in my life if I didn't do the London Marathon, and I just couldn't deal with the FOMO. Simple as that. So I found a way to get into the race, and then subsequently I've been able to qualify since. So it's a nice journey, it's a nice story, really nice story, and that is you out there. That is you out there. If you felt like you had an exceptional experience on Sunday, do what you can, explore the options that you can to get yourself into the race, because if you found it magical, it can happen again. So halfway, I got through at 1:25.38, which was slightly over the estimation of what I wanted, but it was fine. I was happy because that was basically low 251, sort of 251 shape. And again, It was just a case of whether or not I could maintain another 125 for the second half, or a 126 for the second half of the race. Halfway point in London to around 30k is probably the one that I've always struggled with. And on Sunday, work with someone around you, which I happened to do so on the day, and then just keep the body moving until the point where it starts to hurt, where your body starts to actually give you some signals that, you know what, this is actually a little bit tough. Hit 25k at 1:41:45. Again, I was around that 4:08 kilometer. I kind of kept it steady between 20 to 25, which was fine. And then from 30k is when I found it got very tough. I kind of just ran out of steam. I just couldn't generate the same leg turnover. The pace that I was running became a lot more difficult. And as you see from the heart rate on the screen, I just ended up going way more into my threshold. A lot more sort of to the top end of my threshold, which is roughly around 170 beats per minute, 171 sort of at the top range, and the low range is probably around 158. I started the actual race in around aerobic zone 3, felt very, very comfortable. I was around sort of the 155, 156 mark, which was excellent. And then it just kind of just push. And when you're producing lactate, when you're producing high levels of lactate in your body, you're just going to slow down, because I just couldn't clear it as fast because my effort was getting higher. It was harder for me to keep pace. I was working a lot harder. It was 30k into the race, and as a result, something has to give, and you eventually just slow down. So that is what I did. 30k slow down, 35k slow down even more. My average pace for that was 4:20, which was a 21:39 for the actual 5k split, which is not too far of what you need for a sub 3. So you can see from the splits from 30k onwards, I've just gone off the plan completely. I've gone off what I was actually trying to do and what I wanted to do, and completely just focus on just getting myself to the end. The last 10k, if I'm totally honest, went really fast because I knew so many people on the course. It was great energy for me to just absorb. I was just using free energy. When you got to 40k along the embankment, I'm just hanging on. I'm honestly just hanging on. A 22:19 for that 5k between 35 and 40. And again, my heart rate is just going up and up and up, and I'm just working really hard. I was breathing quite heavily just to maintain my rhythm, my form, my economy, my efficiency, just to make sure I just kept moving more than anything. Even if it looked like it was a complete shuffle, it kind of felt like it was. And then the end to the finish, I've averaged 9 minutes 43 from the 40k marker to the finish. I was super tired, and in the end I've clocked a 2:56:28, and I'm happy with it because it was a sub 3. I'm happy because I was able to qualify again for next year for London, get my good for age time, which was on my mind throughout the whole race. I was adamant that I had to get that time just so I can get myself into the race, and also it's another BQ, which was really good. So a couple of things as to why I felt as if I didn't hit my A goal. I hit a C goal, which was still a good target. Was number one, I just felt like my training for this particular marathon was just a little bit too disrupted. I kind of have struggled on my return back from COVID, been able to sort of hit that aerobic level. I was doing my long runs, I was doing my easy runs, my speed runs, and tempo runs. I was doing all of them, but I think what I actually needed was a little bit missing. I never did a lot of steady state running. Steady state running for me improves my aerobic capacity massively. It always has done, and it's just something I just couldn't do. I wasn't able to hit the targets. I wasn't able to sort of get that consistent build up of volume and the quality in my training, which is fine in the end. And it kind of reflected on what I ran at the big half. I ran 1:23:28 at the big half, which was okay. I've always kind of believed in that. Your half marathon time times 2 plus about 5 to 8 minutes results in roughly your marathon time, 5 to 10 minutes, give or take how long you've been running. So 123 times 2 is 246, plus top end of about 10 minutes gave me a 256. So that algorithm, that calculation is very much used. I use it all the time for my athletes, and it kind of reigned pretty true for the actual weekend itself. Going forward, I'd obviously need to make sure you're staying nice and fit and healthy, training in zone 1, zone 2 for your easy running, zone 3 for aerobic running, zone 4 for threshold, zone 5 for your intervals and sort of fast-paced, short, hard efforts. In terms of effort levels, I also noticed on the actual day itself, my cadence wasn't as springy, as poppy as I liked. I probably didn't sleep as well in that week just because of commitments elsewhere. Also, how I was turning my legs over, it just didn't feel as springy and sharp as I kind of have done on the previous long runs, which can happen. A few affected nights of sleep can have a dramatic disadvantage to your performance, and that's kind of what happened to me on Sunday. I mean, I don't make excuses, not at all. I just didn't have the fitness, simple as that. But I'm just giving you some extra side added layers onto what kind of went into the race. And in terms of what I've learned in terms of the race, end of the day, I was happy to finish another marathon. It was an exceptional experience. I've learned kind of what I need to do for the next phase in my training, the next block. Super chilled for the next few weeks or so. Do New York, get that out of the way, and then make sure that I am prepared for winter training going to April. 11 London marathons done. That was my 21st marathon. A lot has gone down to get from where I was at 4:42 to 2:51 at the moment. I'm hoping to have that breakthrough down to sort of 2:45 or so. That would be my target. That is my target in terms of the future goals. Thank you for watching. Hopefully see you in the next video. Take care. Goodbye.